Hey everyone, it is Steph. This is my second to last video on my series on Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. And today we're going to dive into why it's important to celebrate small wins and why it is important to treat profit like a reward. And really it comes down to, everything comes back to Atomic Habits, really. What we learned in Atomic Habits last year with how you establish good habits, how you establish good practices. That which gets rewarded gets repeated. And so if we really want to ritualize how we become good stewards of our resources and money in particular in this instance, then we need to figure out a way to ritualize acknowledging our wins and acknowledging our profit and understanding how that connects to like progressing ourselves towards things that we want, that are enjoyable. I mean, for me personally, I've come to appreciate that the better I am at being a steward of my resources, the better my vacations are. And that is really important to me. My husband and I enjoy traveling. We really enjoy having that time together, and being able to squirrel money away and take a fun trip every year is something that we both really value and enjoy. So when I make good choices and I'm not impulsive and I'm really paying attention to what I'm doing and I'm celebrating that fact, I wind up with something that is incredibly important to me instead of just, the random act of violence that my finances used to be before I was reformed. So in a very practical way, the question becomes, how do I ritualize all of this? And one of my clients came up with a genius idea for how she closes out each day. And I think that a little financial review, certainly either every day or at the end of each week, could be easily incorporated into this. So I don't want to betray any confidences because I didn't get her permission to share her specifically. So I'll keep this vague, but I thought that this was such a great idea. She texted me a screenshot of this. And what she did is she created an end of day closing process. So at the end of every day, she goes into ChatGPT and she used it to help her create a series of questions. And it takes her through those questions and she has to answer them. And it kind of paints a picture of how the day went and how she set up either for the following day or if it's Friday for the following week. So I'll just read a couple of things. So she types in the Q, which is, closing the day. And now ChatGPT knows they need to start this series of questions. So ChatGPT says, take a breath. We are in closing CEO mode for today. Ready? And my client says, yes. So ChatGPT says, beautiful. Open your calendar and look at tomorrow. Do you have any sessions, calls, or deadlines scheduled? And then my client goes kind of through a review of here's what's on deck. And then ChatGPT says, good. And since this was on a Friday, it says weekend space is intentional space. Quick check. Look at your client tracker. Are there any clients not listed that should be? And so it starts kind of taking her through a series of questions to make sure that she's all set to go for whatever Monday brings. And there's another series of questions in here that are more specific to her business, so I won't read those. But I wanted to share enough to give you an idea that having this closing ritual and incorporating into that maybe a little financial review. How many clients did you see today? How many billable hours did you have? Or how much did you sell? Or how many proposals did you send out? And if that feels like too much pressure on a daily basis, then maybe do it as a Friday closing ritual and doing a review of the week. How much money did you bring in? How much money did you spend? And having something guide you through a process like that with very intentional questions will help us stop and think and review about what actually happened and not just how we feel about it. I'm all for like gut instinct and listening to how you feel about things. Uh, and I also think that it is important to make room for data that can corroborate those feelings. Um, I love that business owners go with their gut and that they have very strong instincts and visions and impulses for things. It's one of the things that makes business owners very dynamic and innovative people. It is also what can make some of us a little overly dependent on shooting from the hip and not really knowing what the hell is going on. So if you need some help coming up with a process for this is actually what today or this week looked like, and this is how much like I could reward myself by making X, Y, and Z decisions next week. Look at ChatGPT as like an accountability buddy and set up your own version of like an end of day or an end of week model that will help set you up for success so you don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel and start everything from scratch all the time. It's too much of a heavy lift. And one of the things that I find myself talking about with my clients a lot lately is the idea of friction. That anytime you are bumping up against any kind of friction or resistance in a process or any part of your business, instead of just like, shouldering your way through it and grinding it out, really being conscious of that friction, picking it apart, figuring out the source of it and your options to do something about it. And in this particular instance, I think having an end of day or end of week ritual that helps you be mindful of the things that affect your profitability not only helps you close out the day and set it off to the side as a way to transition into your personal life into the evening, but it also sets you up for more mindfulness in your decision making during the day. So I thought that was a brilliant idea. I really wanted to pass that on, and I think it's particularly applicable to what we're looking at this week with Mike's book. So I hope that is helpful. As always, I learn as much from all of you as I share with you. So keep those great ideas coming because I love passing those on. Leveraged learning is what coaching is all about. So hope you're having a great week. In a couple of weeks, we'll do our last video on Profit First, and then we will be on to our next book, which I've got a few really good contenders that I'm going through. So I think that will be another interesting series. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. Enjoy the rest of your week and see you in a couple of Wednesdays. Bye, guys.